What's the story about the cemetery here, Dad?
Jolson gave this lot here to the town, and up here where his wife was buried. Buried the wife up in there.
What year was that, maybe?
Oh, it must have been about 1903 or 4, something like that.
Okay. How old would you have been?
How about around 4, I think.
Okay.
4 or 5.
You kind of remember this, do you?
They were cutting all these trees, they drugging them out by hand, hauling the trees down, and everybody worked for a lot. I think it was either 4 or 5 grave lots they had here. Each one had done the work, got it for nothing.
Who were some of those original settlers?
Oh, there was my uncle, George, and Nelson, and Raleigh Marsh, Will Marsh, Glenn Marsh, Gardner, different ones.
And the first one in here was Julson, did you say?
Wilson, yeah.
All right, let's go find that grave, shall we?
They buried his wife. And they made on the outside, you had a board, an 8-inch board, made it square where she lay.
Did he have a board for a headstone or anything, or rock, or?
Just like one main board.
Okay, and she was the first one in here.
Yeah, first one donated.
Okay, he donated the land.
Joel donated the land, an acre I think it was. And then they won the lot. They come and work, cut down the trees and rubbed out all the stumps and that. And they were all 3 of them are Raleigh Marsh, Glenn Marsh, and Will Marsh, and my dad, Knudsen. We all come up here and took out the trees, made this lot in here. I remember Knudsen's team ran away in here, started home, and Rush Gardner caught him up there and bringing them back.
How many teams were here that day?
Oh, they all come with horses. I'd say probably 6 or 7.
Where were you at the time?
Well, my dad left me in the wagon. Told me to stay there, and we were doing the work. Grubbed out all the stumps and that. And they were all 3 of the Marsh, Raleigh Marsh, Glenn Marsh, and Will Marsh, and my dad, Knudsen. We all come up here and took out the trees, made this lot in here. I remember Knudsen's team ran away in here, started toward home, and Rush Gardner caught them up there and was bringing them back.
How many teams were here that day?
Oh, they all come with horses. I'd say probably 6 or 7.
Where were you at the time?
Well, my dad left me in the wagon, told me to stay there, and they were doing the work around here. This team went right close by. I thought sure they were going to come up into the wagon.
Who are some of the other people around here now we should look at, the pioneers or early settlers? Or?
Well, there's Knudsens, of course, and the Marshes, and the Gardners, and Griffin.
Now, are the marshes right here, for example, or?
Right where you're standing there.
Okay.
All of those lilac bushes, the marshes.
Let's look at a couple of those headstones and which. Would these be some of the oldest headstones that are here then? And
here's Marsh.
which one?
It's grandmother, P-L-E-A-R-I-D-E-S, Peerless, 1903.
Okay.
And grandfather, 1909.
Would this have been like Will Marsh's parents then?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then down here, So here they put concrete wall around, about 6 inches wide and probably about 6 inches deep, all the way around here. Now here's Richard King. That's Marsh's. This is Marsh's brother. And here's Lynn Marsh. Here's Margaret. This is Ellen Marsh. That's Glenn Marsh's daughter. She's 1910. Marked in here. Concrete.
Homemade tombstone.
Yeah.
Held up pretty good
Yeah.
since 1910, huh?
Yeah. Thatcher, O.M. Thatcher. 1861, he died in 1966. He was over, I think he was 100 or so. There's his wife, Sarah, 1868, 1957. I don't know who this one is. Oh yeah, this is Hazel. Hazel Thatcher. That was the daughter of O.M. She was a teacher, worked for the county. She was superintendent for 2-3 years, taught school for years. She died in 1978.
O.M., was he one of the original pioneers?
Well, pretty much.